Welcome to Floriade Reimagined Pets Day In. Normally it's Pets Day Out or Dogs Day Out at Floriade on the last day when everybody brings their dog down to Commonwealth Park right at the very end of Floriade and has a wonderful day of doggy fun. But this year, because of COVID, things have had to change a little bit, so that's why we've reimagined Floriade. I'm Karen Viggers. I'm a local Canberra veterinarian. I've worked in Canberra since 1992, so I'm almost a local. And this is my friend Toffee, who's an 11-year-old Maltese Shih Tzu who's going to help us today on this little journey. So today, the main topic I'm going to talk about is pets' health and well-being. I'm going to talk mostly about dogs, but also a little bit about cats, and we'll touch on rabbits as well, rabbits and guinea pigs as well. So pets are part of our families these days. They're our constant companions. They're often happier to see us and treat us better than our friends and relatives. So it's really important that we take good care of them. And there's many things that we can do to make sure their lives are happy and healthy. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The types of topics we're going to touch on will include choosing a pet, because it's really important to make sure you get the right pet for you and your lifestyle. We'll also talk about how to keep your pet happy and healthy at home in terms of its housing and bedding, and in terms of exercise, and then a lot of the veterinary care things that you need to do, like making sure they have an appropriate diet, when you go to the vet, getting their vaccinations and heartworm prevention. And for those people that go to the coast, prevention of fleas and ticks is also an issue that you need to think about. Choosing a pet might seem like an easy thing to do, but it actually can be quite a complicated process, and it does require you to give it some considerable thought. This is my dog Toffee. We chose her very carefully. She's 11 years old now. She's a Maltese Shih Tzu. And when we got her, my children were 7 and 9 years old. So what we wanted to think about was getting a dog that was going to be very easy for young children to interact with. We have a small backyard, so I wanted a dog that needed some regular exercise but wasn't going to need a lot of exercise. And we also wanted something small that my children could pick up and carry and take for a walk without being dragged or pushed over. My husband was really keen to get a Labrador, which are also beautiful dogs, but we thought a Labrador would be too big and strong for our children. So thinking about your needs and what you want to get out of a pet is a really important thing for you to do. So for instance, if you work long hours and you're often not at home, if you have to be out for work, which at the moment during COVID most people are home, but maybe a cat would be a more appropriate pet for you because they are lower maintenance and don't need to be out as often, and they're quite solitary animals, whereas dogs are very social and like to have people around a lot of the time. The other thing to think about is how much you like to get out and about and exercise. So if you don't like going for long walks every day, then perhaps a small dog like Toffee or a Cavoodle or a Cavalier King Charles that's smaller and quieter and needs less exercise might be more suitable for you. But then if you're a really active person that likes to get out walking, and Canberra's got so many wonderful bushlands, then a larger dog could be good for you, like a Labrador or a Golden Retriever, or if you want to run, something like a Kelpie or a Border Collie that needs heaps of exercise because they're working dogs. That's something you could consider as well. Often people think that rabbits would be a good pet for young children, but unfortunately that's often not the case. Most rabbits are very flighty and frightened little animals, very stressy, and so they're not really well suited to being picked up and carried around and having close contact. That sort of relationship can be built with rabbits, but it takes time and often they're not the right pets for children. I was talking to one of the vets at our practice the other day who does a lot of work with exotic animals, and she was saying that in fact one of the best pets for young people and even for teenagers can be a rat, which sounds like a horrendous thing, but they're actually very interactive and fun little pets. They're much more interactive than mice and guinea pigs, and certainly than rabbits who often want to go off and hide. So now you've got your pet at home, and we're going to talk about housing arrangements, whether you're going to keep your pet indoors or outdoors, and what the best sort of setup would be. So I think for dogs, one of the most important things is that you have a secure backyard. You don't want your dog to be able to escape, and sometimes they will try to do that when you're not there. We often get dogs that are not in secure backyards that get out and then get hit by cars, so it's really important to have a safe backyard. Living in Canberra, you've also got to think about hot summers and cold winters. When we got Toffee, my husband was adamant that she was going to be an outdoor animal, an outdoor pet. But a little dog like Toffee can't stay warm, and she really hates the heat as well. So she's mostly an indoor pet, and she sleeps in the laundry. She has her own crate, and she's well kept in there. Some of the bigger dogs can stay outside, but you do need to make sure that they have shelter. So good somewhere to escape the heat in summer and to have good shade. And in winter, a warm kennel or a warm bed, even sometimes it's good to have a heated pad to keep them warm, especially older animals. And a coat can be really handy in winter to keep them warm. I also wanted to talk about cats. These days there are some suburbs in Canberra where cats are compulsorily indoor animals. That's to protect the local wildlife. But we've actually found that is a very good way to keep cats as indoor pets. A lot of cats do like to get outside, and that can be difficult, but there's numerous companies now around Canberra that can build a cat run or a cat aviary on your back deck, so your cat can have access to the outdoors. One of the risks, there are several risks with cats being outdoors. The first is that they do tend to roam, and so they're at risk of being hit by cars. Secondly, they often get in fights with other cats and have to go and visit the vets for cat abscesses. And in those fights, they can catch feline AIDS, which is a transmissible disease similar to human AIDS. And if your cat's outdoors, that's certainly a risk as well. So keeping them indoors is not only good for the cat, but it's responsible pet ownership, because then they're not attacking and eating our wonderful little lizards and birds as well. Let's talk about diet now, because it's really important to feed your pet a healthy and well-balanced diet so they can have a long, happy lifespan. We're very fortunate these days because there are some fantastic commercial rations on the market that can provide your whole diet for your pet. It's quite interesting because dogs are different in their requirements from cats. So dogs are much more omnivorous from cats, and cats are obligate carnivores, so they have quite different needs. So even though a dog can eat some cat food, it's not healthy for a cat to eat dog food in the long term. So a healthy diet is particularly important when your dog is young and in their growth phase, because this is when you're laying down the foundations in their bones and their joints and ligaments for the rest of their lives. So if you can afford it, I think it's really worthwhile trying to get some of the higher quality foods for that growth period. It has extra protein and vitamins and fats and carbohydrates added at the right proportion for your pet's growth, including calcium and phosphorus for bone development. So this is just a sample of some of the diets that are available in Canberra, and you can even get some of these things online these days. But the best brands would include Hills, Royal Canin, Eukanuba, Black Hawk. There's a number of very good quality diets around. So that is something you should discuss with your vet or even with your pet food supplier at your pet shop, because they can really help to guide you to get the right ration for your dog. So dogs can live completely 100% on a dry food diet, and that's what happens with my dog. She mostly has just dry food and maybe some carrots or leftover veggies or that sort of thing that we have at home. But cats, we generally recommend have a more mixed diet, so usually 50% dry and 50% moist diet, because often cats don't drink enough water to go with their diet, and that can predispose them to other conditions, sometimes urinary tract problems. So that is again something to discuss with your vet. And unfortunately, the higher quality ones are often better for your pets as well if you can afford them. Any of them are okay, but I would definitely advise against any of the no-name brands because they often aren't balanced. The diets we have for our pets these days are so good that we have to be really careful to balance that with exercise, with the right amount of exercise so that they don't get overweight. The reason this is important is that if they're carrying extra weight, that can put significant pressure on joints and ligaments, and we can end up with problems. So for instance, if you've got a larger dog that's overweight, we're going to bring on problems with hip arthritis earlier than that needs to occur. There's also the risk of rupturing a cruciate ligament like we see with our footballers and athletes, and that's not a place we want to go because it's quite expensive surgery and often involves cage rest for our animals. So with a small dog, 30 minutes of good active exercise a day can be adequate. For larger dogs, we're looking at least 30 minutes twice a day to try and keep them fit, as well as balancing that with the right amount of food, so not overfeeding our dogs. Cats, however, are a little bit trickier. You can't really take your cat for a walk, though some people have cats that will go for a little walk on a lead. But there are other ways to help your cat exercise at home by just modifying the environment to make it interesting, so like having scratching posts and things like that they can climb on, little towers. And I remember somebody at a vet conference saying a fun way to exercise a cat is to get a laser pointer and squiggle it around on the floor, and the cat will run around after that little dot on the floor. So there are ways to exercise cats as well. And if you have a look online, you might be able to come up with some new and innovative ways to keep your cat healthy and fit too. Now I wanted to talk a little more about the veterinary side of things that you go and see your vet for to make sure your pets don't get any nasty diseases. So vaccinations are really important for our pets. Just like they are when our children are young and we have to get them vaccinated, we have to have our pets vaccinated as well, because there are some diseases that can cause serious illnesses or even death in our pets. So for instance, in dogs, we have them vaccinated for distemper, hepatitis and parvovirus. Those are diseases that can actually kill our pets. And these days in Canberra, we also vaccinate for kennel cough or canine cough, which is a highly contagious coughing disease that sounds very much like whooping cough in humans. And in fact, it often sounds like there's something stuck in your dog's throat. And that's how people often present to the vets when their dog has kennel cough. So we can vaccinate against all these diseases, and your vet will tell you what needs to be done there. Cats also require vaccination, and the important diseases that we need to vaccinate our cats for are feline enteritis, cat flu, and also feline AIDS. In the outdoor fighting cat population, 10% of cats can be infected with feline AIDS, and when they fight with your cat, feline AIDS is transmitted by bite wounds, and so it's important to protect against that if you have an outdoor cat. Rabbits can also be vaccinated for rabbit calicivirus disease. There's also myxomatosis that rabbits can catch. We don't see much of that in Canberra, and there is no vaccination for myxomatosis. Another thing to think about if you have a dog in Canberra is heartworm prevention. Heartworm is transmitted between dogs by mosquitoes, so your dog doesn't need to be in contact with other dogs to catch it. What happens with heartworm is that over time, the adult worms build up in numbers in your dog's heart and cause serious problems with its heart. So heartworm prevention is essential in Canberra, and you should talk to your vet about it. The other type of worming that you need to remember too is worming for your dog's intestinal and stomach worms, and that is something your vet can advise you about. We usually recommend worming every 3 months. Now this year in Canberra, this spring, I think we're going to start seeing some issues with fleas because we've had quite a lot of rain and it's quite warm, and that's ideal conditions for fleas to breed and to jump onto your pets, dogs and cats. And so we do need to think about prevention for fleas. There's some great products on the markets these days. We don't use collars or flea powder anymore. Those are very ineffective. But we have great things like Advantage or Advantix, which is good for fleas and ticks in dogs and cats. There's also NexGard or Simparica. That's an excellent option as well. It comes as a tablet that your dog or cat takes once a month. There are a whole range of other products too, like Comfortus, Capstar, Revolution, Sentinel. There's a number of products out there, and it would be good to talk to your vet or your pet shop owner about what suits you and your dog best. A lot of Canberrans also go down to the coast in spring and summer. It's really, really important to make sure your dog is protected against ticks down at the coast. Tick paralysis, most people would know about it now, but it's a really serious disease and it can kill your pet. So if your dog has prevention before it goes down the coast, we hardly ever see any cases of tick paralysis anymore. But the people that go down that don't have any products for their dogs, they often come back with ticks on them. It's really serious. So often what people will notice is the dog's voice changes, or they start to become a bit wobbly on their feet, and it's really critical to get to your vet straight away for them to treat your dog. If your dog does happen to get a tick, it is important that the tick is removed. What is important is a lot of people often say, oh, you have to be careful about leaving the mouth parts behind. That's not as important as trying to be careful not to squeeze the tick as you remove it. You can buy little tick hook removers that you can buy from a pet shop or from your vet that slides under the tick, and then you twist it and it removes the tick and mostly brings the mouth parts as well. But the important thing is not to squeeze the tick if you find a tick on your animal. And the places that you will most often find them around the head and the neck, in the moist parts, under the elbows and in the groin, even under the collar or inside the lips or the ears. They can occur anywhere on your dog though. The sorts of things to look for if your pet might have had a tick on it, often people will notice a change in the way the dog's voice sounds. That's because this is a paralysis tick, and so it affects the nerves that go to the larynx and affects their voice. The next thing you might notice is the dog starts to become a little bit wobbly, and it's absolutely critical to get to your vet at that point in time because tick paralysis can kill your pet. And the other thing is, after a tick is removed, the animal can actually deteriorate for up to 24 hours before it starts to get better. So you need to get treatment for your pet straight away. It's really critical. Another part of responsible pet ownership is making sure you have your pets desexed. It's best that the breeding is done by registered breeders. That's the requirement these days. And it's important that we're not providing more puppies and kittens to the RSPCA to try and find homes for, because that's a very difficult job. If they can't find homes for those animals, in the end they have to be put down. The other thing is it's often better for your pet and pet's health as well. For instance, a female dog that's not desexed is much more susceptible to developing mammary cancer and also uterine infections. And then it becomes much more major surgery to do the desexing. For male dogs, over time they can become quite susceptible to developing testicular cancer or prostatic disease. And there's also another quite horrible tumour that can develop around their back end, around their anal area, called a perianal adenoma, which is always in association with testosterone. So it is definitely worthwhile having your pets desexed. Thank you for joining us for Floriade Reimagined Pet Stay In. I'm Karen Viggers and this is Toffee. And for more information on caring for your pet, please visit the Floriade Australia website.